After exploring the world-renowned Tikal National Park, an enduring symbol of Guatemala and Mayan culture worldwide, I returned back to my hotel room to get ready for our next adventure. Alright folks, so that was it for Tikal, and I just got back to my hotel and ready to check out. What can I say? This park is absolutely huge, and I tried my best to see as much as I could, including making some crucial mistakes by picking the wrong routes in the very beginning. But hopefully if you're watching that, you will learn from my mistakes, so next time when you visit Tikal, you wouldn't suffer the way I did. So ideally, like this park, I could totally spend a week not just exploring the ruins, but also wildlife watching, that's for sure. And I only thought, toucans and those animals are only going to be on brochures, but I was wrong. They are literally just beside the trees, right next to the Temple of Jaguar. In fact, Tikal was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site for both of its historic significance and nature back in 1979. Now, I can vouch in for UNESCO's selection criteria and tell you that, yep, Tikal is pretty impressive in both aspects. The only issue is, if I were to visit for a week there, where am I gonna stay? Hopefully not Jungle Lodge again. The only issue is, like this hotel, it gets pretty hot at night. And hopefully when I get to my next hotel, they will have an air conditioning, because it is located at least in a town. Whereas this one, totally understand that this is in the middle of nowhere, and electricity can be very scarce. And it's also my first time trying out something called Eco Lodge. So now finally I know what Eco Lodge means. If it's not too hot, yeah, I would definitely try again. If I try again, I'll definitely share it with you guys here on Sayu Rinpoche's Adventures. But for now, vamos, let's get going. When I booked round-trip transportation to the Jungle Lodge, I asked them to drop me off to Flores town on the way back, instead of the Flores Mundo Maya International Airport. Flores is the capital of the Petén department. The town is often skipped by Tikal visitors who are willing to spend money for hotels on site, like the Jungle Lodge, but is used as the base for many budget-conscious travelers who go to Tikal for day tours. Well, I guess this time, I'm doing the full experience. The reason why I wanted to specifically visit Flores is because of its unique location. The core area of the city is on a small island in the middle of a big lake, known as Petén, which is the same lake we saw en route to Tikal from the airport, and the very lake you're looking at right now in this footage. They say back before the arrival of the conquistadors, there was a Mayan city by the name of Love Petén that had structures just like what we saw in Tikal. After the Spanish colonial conquest, the city was abandoned and a brand new town was built in colonial style on the top of the ruins. For those of you who are familiar with the history of Mexico City, isn't this like the Mayan version of Tenochtitlan? That's why I'm here after I visited Tikal. I'm just curious what Mexico City would have been like if it's still a city in the middle of a lake. Which, by the way, if that's the case, it will probably never be a world-class city like what we know today. Maybe it'll be something just like Flores. Alright folks, just got into Flores. So yeah, I got here a bit too early and the room is not ready yet. But the sun is rather unforgiving. I guess for now, still like 1 hour and a half till check-in time. I'll just probably walk around, or maybe if there's opportunity, I'll probably go grab a cold drink somewhere. I ended up finding a place right next to the Yo Amo Petén sign for both drinks and food. The chicken soup was unbelievably good. I think it was the best chicken soup I've ever had, period. After lunch, let's explore Flores. What? So the lakefront promenade right next to the restaurant was completely flooded? Oh well, maybe let's head towards the opposite direction. Hey, what are you doing? Folks, if you ever find the numbers of local toads and frogs are sharply declining, now you know who to blame. By the way, this is what the island part of Flores looks like. As you can see, it's not a big island, but somehow it's pretty hilly. I'm not sure if the town was built on a hill or the entire town was built upon a giant Mayan pyramid. Anyways, there was absolutely no trace of pre-Columbian Mayan artifacts there. At least, I didn't see any. It didn't take me that long to reach the other side of the island, where the lakefront promenade was not flooded like the other side. You know what? The water ain't bad. You can see fish. The weather was brutally hot, even when I was standing right next to the Petén Lake. So I returned back to the hotel, and fortunately, the front desk told me that my room was ready. When I opened up my room door, a blast of cold air hit my face really hard. That means, oh yeah, my room has aircon. Oh, it's right here. The downside for this room is it doesn't really have a view, but it's okay, at least it's cheap. If I remember, if you pay like 10 USD more than this, you'll get a very nice lake view room, which in this case I do not require, I believe, or maybe should I? Well, the hotel's restaurant had a terrace facing Lake Petén. So the worst case scenario is, if I want to see sunrise over the lake, all I have to do was heading to this terrace, which was less than a minute walk away from my room. Hold on, does that mean that I have to wake up early again the next day? That is if I have more energy. Because remember, I barely slept last night because of the murderous bloody monkeys. I was thinking about booking a sunset boat tour on Lake Petén, but it was too hot and I did not want to even leave my air-conditioned hotel room. So, I missed the deadline for signing up the tour. Whatever. After the weather cooled down a little bit, I decided to take another walk around Flores. This time, the goal was to walk every single street of Flores Island. Turns out, doesn't matter which way I took, I always ended up being at the park in the middle of Flores Island. This is where the community's main church is located. Okay, it was actually still pretty hot. Time to find a shaded area for a quick rest. Oh, the church is open? Let's go in, take a look, and take a rest. There was a vendor selling cold drinks and snacks in the park. What a lifesaver. Then I had to think about what to do next. If I ain't catching the sunset in the middle of the lake, I'm definitely looking for a good place for doing that somewhere in town. Because I was literally in the middle of an island. It wasn't hard to find that perfect spot at all. The lakefront promenade facing the west. It was still a bit too early for sunset, and I believe that I literally just explored every single street on Flores Island. So, the question is, where else could we go in the meantime? Flores essentially is an island community and it's connected to the mainland by a causeway, and I am crossing the causeway to the mainland right now. Technically, the other side of the causeway is still Flores, but it wasn't as interesting as the island part. It appeared to be just a typical town in Latin America. Okay, now we're close enough to the sunset time. Let's head back. I passed by some street vendors. Oh, look really nice. But I wasn't hungry for dinner yet, unfortunately. When I returned back to Flores Island, it became a lot quieter. Where did all the people go? When I reached the western section of the lakefront promenade, I realized, oh yeah, of course, everybody's here for the same reason as myself. After the sun disappeared below the horizon, I felt hungry all of a sudden. I must eat right away, right now. I came across the vendor by the neighborhood park in the middle of the island, and they were selling food in the evenings. I ordered 2 burritos and had a great time watching some teenagers playing football in the park. Did I regret not signing up for the Petén Ita boat tour? Absolutely. But I also knew that if I went for the tour, I would miss everyday surprises like what I chose to experience instead. Sometimes you do have to make a choice, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you will regret one or the other. What if both outcomes will be good? So don't think too much, have fun with your choice, and no regrets. Alright folks, I was just about to call it a day, then I heard some loud noise from my room that doesn't even have an outside facing window. So I came out and guess what I saw? Hold on, I've seen this Jesus before earlier that day inside the town's main church. So that's why it was there. And it meant one thing. The Easter Holy Week celebration in Guatemala had already begun. Yet, I was caught completely off guard. Alright, time to join the local residents and follow Jesus. Despite that, it had been over 24 hours since the last time I slept. Whatever, I'll do anything for Jesus.
Gozoso proclamo tu realeza y tu gloria, Señor, y ante el mundo gozoso proclamo tu realeza y tu gloria, Señor.
Seriously folks, I was just about to go to sleep and then that happened. Considering that the previous night I did not even sleep, and you were telling me that starting this week into the Semana Santa, the Holy Week, that they have those kind of events like everywhere. I guess Guatemala never wants me to sleep. But anyways, I am super tired. Tomorrow I'll have to catch a flight back to Guatemala City, and there I'll catch a shuttle to the next town I'm staying at. Today, especially later in the afternoon, it was getting really hot. I feel like I could get killed by the sunshine. And I checked the forecast and it says it was 37 degrees Celsius. Okay, no wonder, especially we're closer to the equator, so the sun power is stronger than in Canada or other northern countries for sure. Now I'm just wondering what's going to happen tomorrow. Is it still going to be this hot? Let me take a look at what the temperature for tomorrow is. What the heck? I'm sure you can see this. It says 41 degrees in Flores tomorrow. Oh my gosh. But luckily, I am actually out of Tikal area, because if I were to stay there overnight tomorrow, I just cannot imagine what's going to happen because there's no air conditioning. Well, even with that, like with 41 degrees Celsius, there's absolutely nothing I can do if that ever happens. Because remember what happened to our Victoria trip, it got pretty much like, 37 degrees. Remember the hostel I stayed at that had no air conditioning? It was such a torture. So folks, I think for 41 degrees, tomorrow we get out of here as soon as possible.